How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. It's been a minute since I've, come on here and talked about the Mavs. Things have been absolutely hectic following the Luka Doncic trade. Um, some good, a lot of bad. It's one of those things that it's everybody's processing it a little bit differently. But I felt like it was time to come on here and give a couple words or two about what's been going on and what to expect for the rest of this season for the Mavs. And before I get started here, I do want to let everybody know that my guy Drew Johnson, he will not be joining me for this episode. Uh, Please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. The Johnson family, they lost a pillar of their family, Garnet Bridges Tanner, which they referred to and I referred to affectionately as Mama. She passed away the other day, and they're going through it, and I just I have fond memories of Mama. Back in the day when me and DJ were growing up, and his family lived in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I'd stay over at their house all the time, and we went to college basketball games and football games, all kinds of stuff. And they were always a big part of that. They were joining us on those sports adventures, and it's sad, and I hate it. I've been through it 4 times, and it's something that never gets any easier. So, love you, buddy, DJ. If you're watching this, I'm praying for you and your family. I hate it for all of y'all. So, hopefully, he'll be able to come back on here with us in the near future, and we can not make things better, but basketball is our release from real life stuff. So, um, that's one reason why we do this, and that's another reason why this Luka trade stuff is so devastating, because what's supposed to be your release from the real world, the real life stuff, uh, all of a sudden got really dark and complicated. So you know. Um, but anyway, moving on. The Mavs, they came out of the All-Star break with a pretty good win over the Pelicans. Zion Williamson and Trey Murphy and C.J. McCollum and all those guys were playing, and Zion Williamson looked like prime Shaq for a lot of that game until it got to the fourth quarter. Mavs ended up winning 111 to 103. Well, fast forward 2 days later, Sunday, it was a 2:30 tip-off time. The Mavs are playing the Golden State Warriors. They beat the Jimmy Butler Warriors. It was the only loss the Warriors have had since acquiring Jimmy Butler before the trade deadline in the previous matchup the Mavs had with the Warriors. And so, coming into this game, the Mavs had won 5 of their last 6 games. They played very well against the Warriors in the last time they faced them with their small ball lineup. So you figured, they might be able to duplicate that performance, repeat it. Kyrie was awesome in that game, and he was coming off a 35-point performance against the Pelicans in the previous game, but it just wasn't the case. I mean, the Warriors were on the Mavs from start to finish. They ended up winning 126 to 102. It was Andre Iguodala's jersey retirement day that they were doing after the game. So, guys like Steph and Draymond, they were bringing a little bit extra juice, I'm sure, for that. But the Mavs, they just couldn't ever get it going. And look, I know ultimately at the end of the day, players have to make shots and play defense to get your team a win. But with that being said, coaching plays a big part in it too. And I have people who have listened to this podcast over the years know that I'm fair with my praise and my criticism of Jason Kidd. I think he's, for the most part, he's done an excellent job in his, almost 4 years now as Mavs head coach. But there are some things that he does that are so frustrating, and it costs the Mavs games, especially in the regular season. And I feel like that was one of those times today when that happened, because in the first quarter, the Mavs got off to a pretty good start. They jumped out to a 9-4 lead. Steve Kerr did not like what he was seeing from the Warriors, so he called a quick timeout. Coming out of that timeout, the Warriors went on a 17-0 run before Kidd called a timeout. I can see letting the guys try to play through it until that run gets up to like 10-0. If it gets up to 10-0, call the timeout. But far too many times we've seen this with Kidd where he just lets it drag on way past the point that he should. So, and like I've mentioned this several times in the past, but former Mavs head coach Rick Carlisle used to always say that it's a first quarter league, and more times than not, he's correct. You get off to a bad start like that, you get yourself in a big hole, and it's hard to climb out of it, because then you're just clawing uphill for the rest of the game, and it's on the road, and you don't have any centers, so you hardly have any. I was about to say you hardly have any rim protection. You don't have any rim protection at all. It's tough. It's tough. So you have to get off to better starts than what we saw, and I think that starts with taking, timely timeouts. You just can't let a team rattle off 16, 17 points in a row before calling a timeout. And look, the only reason that timeout was called after that run was because Steph Curry got fouled on an and one, and then they took the timeout before that free throw that Steph took. So it made me wonder, like, if if Steph hadn't been fouled, would Kidd have called the timeout, or would he just have kept it rolling? So I don't know. But anyway, Mavs were in a 33-18 hole after the first quarter, and it was just downhill from there. So, you look at the other quarters, and it really, wasn't too bad scoring. The Mavs only lost the second quarter 28-26. They lost the third quarter 39-31. They won the fourth quarter 27-26. But that first quarter was the difference in the game. So, it was one of those things. When I saw that run happen and that hot start by Dallas get completely wiped out, I knew what kind of day they were going to be in for. So, standings wise, the Mavs, they're still in decent position. They had moved to within one game of the sixth seed, the Clippers, but with the loss, they're now a game and a half behind the Clippers in the sixth spot. They're a half game behind the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are in the seventh spot, and they were a game and a half ahead of the Golden State Warriors. But since the Warriors beat them in the head-to-head, the Warriors are now just a half game behind the Mavs, sitting in ninth place. So the good news for Dallas is, when you look at the standings and you consider that, the San Antonio Spurs, Victor Wembanyama, he's out for the rest of the season because he had a blood clot in his shoulder. A very scary situation for Victor and the Spurs there, but he's out for the rest of the season. So the Spurs, I don't think they're realistically going to make any noise for that last play-in spot now. The Phoenix Suns, they're 3 games behind the Mavs, and they're currently down by 15 at halftime to the Toronto Raptors, who should be tanking at this point. The vibes in Phoenix are just absolutely awful. So when you take those two situations into consideration, I feel like this Mavs team, at worst, is locked into a play-in spot. I don't see them, especially since I think the last time I checked, they have like the third easiest record in the West remaining for this season. So I don't think they're going to finish any lower than 10th, even if they drop a couple games that we think they should win. But we'll see. I don't think they're going to fall out of the play-in. They're still very close to that six seed. The Clippers, like I said, the Mavs are trailing the Clippers by a game and a half, and the Clippers are currently losing. They're getting blown out. They are going to lose to Rick Carlisle's Indiana Pacers. They're down by 15 points with 5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. So the Mavs will remain one game behind the Clippers if that score holds. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like if Anthony Davis comes back, and I know people think it's smoke and mirrors and that he's not coming back for the rest of the season, and the Mavs are just not wanting to admit that. But I really do think there's a good chance he might come back by that March 6th date that Mavs PR put out. And I've written about this, but I haven't podcasted about it because this is the first pod I've done in a while. But for those who haven't come on here and listened, or haven't gone to mavstepback.com and read what I've posted about it, the Mavs are reevaluating Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, and Daniel Gafford on March 6th. That's the target date where we think we could have something of substance come into play as far as like an actual return date for some of those guys. Me personally, I think Anthony Davis will come back from the abductor strain. I think Derek Lively might actually come back before AD. I don't know. There was some photos and videos come out of Lively out of his walking boot and doing some work on the court in practice the other day. So that's a good sign. The reports were like 2 to 3 months for him when he had his foot injury, and it's been 2 months now. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's back in the next couple weeks. Gafford, though, I kind of think he's done for the season because a grade 3 knee sprain is that's kind of a tear. I've seen many people who are more fluent in sports injuries and stuff, way smarter about it than I am on that topic, have said that that's kind of something that they don't see at a rosy glasses type scenario, 4 to 6 weeks or something like that. But I think he's done for the season, unfortunately, unless the Mavs training staff goes full Dragon Ball Z and finds a way to give these guys sensu beans. I just don't see it happening for Gafford. But if they can just get the Mavs are in such a bad situation with their bigs that just getting Dwight Powell back from his hip injury would be massive. So we'll see how it goes over the next few weeks. But they should be. I think they will get AD back. I think they will get Lively back. Powell should come back at some point for center insurance. Caleb Martin is getting closer, I believe, to coming back. So reinforcements should be on the way. Unfortunately for all of us Mavs fans, media, even the ones that have gone over to join the Lakers side since the trade. Unfortunately for everybody, those reinforcements aren't going to be back before Tuesday night, and that's when the Mavs take on the Lakers in Los Angeles. Luka versus his former team for the first time ever. Man, that has potential to be the worst sports day for me in my entire life, because earlier in that day, Southern Miss, for those who don't know, I graduated from Southern Miss, massive Southern Miss, any sports, I'm all in. That's what my hat is right here. It's the upside down SMTTT, Southern Miss to the top. Well, anyway, Tuesday they play at Ole Miss, and the baseball team does. Started out this season 7-1, so they play at Ole Miss, and then after that, it'll be the Mavs at the Lakers, with Luka playing against the Mavs for the first time ever. So that has potential to be the absolute worst sports day of my life, depending on what the outcomes of those games are. So I'm not ready for it. There are times during the last couple weeks where I feel like, I've reached the acceptance stage of what happened with Luka being traded, and it just, I don't know, man. It's one of those things where you try to accept it, you try to move on, and then there's always going to be something else that happens that that brings up those old feelings again. And I feel like that's what Tuesday is going to be like for me, because man, Luka was outstanding in Denver the other night. Nearly had a 30 triple double, had 4 steals. Lakers beat the Nuggets in Denver by 23 points. He was, snarling at guys in the crowd and, smiling a lot. It looked like he was back. I mean, after a bumpy first 3 games with the Lakers, Luka looked like himself again, and it just makes me sick. Like, have a pit in my stomach uh, thinking about how things have gone over the last few weeks. So I don't know. I fully expect Luka to drop the hammer on the Mavs on Tuesday. And, Nico Harrison was in attendance for this Mavs Warriors game where his team got stomped on Sunday. And so I imagine he'll be in attendance on Tuesday as well. And it'll be interesting to see where he sits at, because he normally sits in the stands. But man, if I was the Lakers, I'd assign him floor seats and, give Adam Silver his money's worth with how that trade went down. Because if Luka sees Nico sitting courtside, ooh man, that's gonna be something. It won't be good for the Mavs, but it would be good for television. It'd be good for Sports Center the following day. So we'll see how it goes, but I have a feeling. I think everybody has a feeling that Luka is just going to go off. And I don't blame him at all for doing that and for feeling a certain way after how things went down. There's still, some mystery around why things went down the way they did. Uh, there really hasn't been much, or there really hasn't been anything come out ever since that initial press conference following the trade that was really awkward with Nico and Jay Kidd. They haven't said anything following the trade, um, since that point. So I don't know. It's over with. I know people say to get over it. I personally, I'm a naturally optimistic guy, and I've tried my best to get past it. And I feel like I've gotten close several times. But like I said, there's always something coming out that just reopens the wound. And I feel like maybe it's going to take a full off season to get away from Mavs basketball completely, um, or at least active games. I think it's going to take a full off season like that to get, fully to a point of acceptance, to where you're not just, moping all the time and thinking about it all the time when somebody posts a Luka graphic on Twitter with a Lakers jersey on and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's we're still working our way through it. I know all of you listening are doing the same thing, and some people have completely turned against the Mavs. I get it. Some people have, they've tried to look past it and get over it and be optimistic about this team that the Mavs currently have when they get healthy. I get that too. I'm with y'all. That sector of the fans, I'm with you. Like I would love for Anthony Davis to be healthy and this team get healthy, and then, see what they've got for the rest of the year. I just don't know if they're going to have enough time to gel by the time AD comes back for it to matter. Or is Kyrie, who's been fantastic all season, is he going to have enough left in the tank after the Mavs are just running him in the ground here lately, minutes wise? With all the short-handedness going on. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. As you can see up here in the top corner, that's our new logo for now. My guy Tyler Upchurch is cooking us up something to use for our main graphic on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that stuff. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I think that's a pretty good one to roll out for stuff like this. I use Canva. Graphic design is my passion. So, but guys, I appreciate y'all coming in and listening to me rant for a little bit. I appreciate all of you. We're gonna get back in the swing of things. Like I said, it's been hectic lately. We've had some life stuff go on. It's been tough to post stuff as regularly as we would like, but I feel like in the next week or so, that we're going to get back on the ball, and I'll have uh, more consistent content for you than what it's been the last couple of weeks. Because at a minimum, I always like to post at least once a week, but during the season, I like to do more than that if possible. But guys, I appreciate it. Please be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on mavsstepback.com. This is the QR code if you're watching on your computer or something and you want to, scan that and it'll take you directly to it. But even if not, just go to mavsstepback.com and put your email in there and it'll sign you up for the free subscription. And, if you did want to pay the $5 a month to get the premium subscription for when we have bonus content, exclusive content every now and then, you definitely go do that as well, because we are a reader-supported publication. We are completely independent. I used to get, paid a little bit to do stuff for DallasBasketball.com during my time there, but it's a completely different story when you branch off and start doing your own thing. But I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate the support that this podcast has gotten over the years, and I'm super excited that it's now a full-blown publication, and we've got our own website via Substack, and we're doing written work independently as well. So I appreciate it, y'all. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday evening if you're listening to this, or if it's Monday morning by the time you're listening to it. I hope you have a great week, and we will see you next time. We'll probably see you after Tuesday, depending on what happens. Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll be back on here to talk about what happens when Luka faces the Mavs. We'll see you.